Now, look, every Wednesday we catch up with our good friend Bruno Bouchet to look at the world through his magnificent eyes. But this week, Bruno has been dealing with the fallout of one of the biggest news stories of the week. To find out more, let's join the man himself. He's joining us live
outdoors.
from an outdoor location. Hello, Bruno.
Oh, Bruno.
Hey, good afternoon, Ben, Robin, Robbo. How's it going? Yes, I'm outside. I could have been inside with a white background again, but I thought I'll go down the road and go to Rose Bay Wharf.
So, no, I was going to say to you, Bruno, this is obviously in your massive, expanding estate. Is that where you are? From the East Gardens, are you, Bruno?
Sorry, you're right. I should have initially said that. Yeah.
All right, we've got some serious stuff to talk about, Bruno. It's not going to be your usual jovial segment. A lot of people might not know, but you are Kyle Sandilands' manager.
Yes, and I've worked with Kyle for the best part of 10 years, mostly on his radio show. Most recently, I was the executive producer of the show. And not only have we had a professional relationship, which we continue to do now, I'd also consider him one of my closest friends. Yeah.
Right. Good to put it out there. And I also must disclose that I have been paid by the Kyle and Jackie O show for occasional appearances on their breakfast program. So before we begin any of this discussion, I just want to make that disclosure. All right, this week there's been a lot of talk about that 60 Minutes interview, including on this very show. We had a situation where 60 Minutes promoted the story one way, but it turned out to be really fake news. Just to remind our viewers, here's the promo.
I don't give a 20 years of radio mayhem. But is it all about to end?
He's crying. Why?
There's a condition that I've been diagnosed with that I haven't spoken to anyone about.
Well, very big promo, promising a lot, but here's the way the segment went to air.
He's crying.
Why?
Well, there's a condition that I've been diagnosed with that I haven't spoken to anyone about.
Are you joking?
Yeah.
Holy moly! Why would you do that?
What do you mean?
Would you do that? I genuinely.
Oh, don't start.
You had me so. You so had
No,
me.
that is emotionally mean.
Yeah.
That was really cruel. Asshole.
Oh my God! How do we know that what he says is real?
I know. Now I'm starting to question everything.
Everything.
Okay, tissues, makeup.
You are messed up.
I know.
Oh my God!
This is what I've had to work with for 20 years, Carl. No wonder I've aged.
I still feel like afterwards he's going to go, no, I was actually serious.
No.
Bruno, what did Kyle's team think of that depiction and the way it was promoted?
I've got to say, ultimately, Kyle is an entertainer. So for him to have done that during the interview with Carl is on brand. I don't work for 60 Minutes. I had a very good working relationship with the producer on the story, Joel. And ultimately, I guess it's up to them how they want to promote it. Our gut feel was, there's likely to be a bit of backlash from this because they're promising one thing and delivering something else. But look, ultimately, it's not wasn't our story that we put together. We were just the subjects of it, and that was entirely up to them.
Absolutely, I couldn't agree more with that. I don't think Kyle did anything wrong, and if anything, when he spoke about it on Monday morning, we really got a sense of what was happening during that interview at that time and what led to that moment. Let's have a listen to what he said.
The honest truth as to why I was so able to cry, like all that breakdown stuff, so easy, was because inside I'm very sad. I'm not joking. Like that inside my person,
Yeah.
I'm very sad.
Oh, sweetie, are you going to make me cry?
I don't mean to, but like, and it wasn't the right forum to bring that up. So, and then I thought, oh God, I'm crying. Because when you said I'm very worried about him, a wave of emotion went through me. And then I realised, oh shit, I'm losing control here.
And the walls went back up.
Yeah, and then so I had to make up that something was wrong. So, as a joke. But There is
it was
nothing.
real emotion.
It was
That's
real
why-
emotion. That's why you didn't know what was going on. But you look at me and you think, yeah, well, you're a fat bastard, and yeah, you should be sad, or you've got everything.
No.
Why would you want to be? But there is a great sadness in me that I just carry around.
Bruno, the biggest issue for me seems to be the fact that Kyle actually was breaking down, telling a real story, and then tried to get out of it when Jackie O gave him the out by saying, "Are you joking?" The fault is with 60 Minutes here on the way it was promoted. But yesterday, Angela Mollard wrote on news.com.au that Kyle Sandilands should be taken off air immediately, saying he doesn't have the right to mess up other people's lives with his puerile and dangerous statements. Mollard goes on to say Sandilands is an emotional pinball ricocheting between being funny, serious and disdainful. But in telling his radio audience that being honest about his sadness was, quote, the biggest mistake of his life, and that when you're feeling sad, you should tell no one, he was recklessly irresponsible. His bosses should take him off air immediately for the health and safety of his audience, who may take his damaging comments to heart. Bruno, Mollard isn't pulling any punches here. What would you like to say in response to that?
So what I would say, and I really want to say this right off the top, I've never met Angela. I don't know what her experience has been with mental health. So I don't want to be seen as having a go at her. I just really want to address the comments that she made, how it made me feel, and of course how it made Kyle feel. And so, you see, the first thing is it's very, very damaging, I think, to have a go at how people deal with their mental illness. Now, Kyle is typical of a lot of men that I know, myself included, who they find it very difficult to deal with mental illness in a mushy and emotional way, which is why Kyle yesterday morning on the show was having a go in a humorous way at the people that had reached out to him with nice messages. And going back to my point, a lot of men struggle with the approach that might work for other people of the warm and fuzzy stuff. But Kyle and a lot of other people, they still want to be themselves when they deal with that. And that's where Kyle's humor came into it. So I guess what I would say to Angela is, I think that, okay, so she wrote the article saying, look, I think what Kyle did an incredible disservice to mental illness in Australia. And what I would say in response is, I think having a go at how someone genuinely is dealing with their own mental illness, I think that's equally damaging.
I think that's fair enough, and I agree with you. Look, the fact is, Kyle said something on a TV show which was misinterpreted and misrepresented by Channel 9. He's now copping a backlash over this, but I get this cancer culture once again. Everyone wants everyone sacked. Is this just another excuse people have got for wanting to get him off the air?
Of course it is. And the reality is, Angela in her article says either Kyle has some type of mental issues, and he should be taken off air and assessed, or he doesn't care about people. And in my opinion, that's a very simplistic way of looking at it, where Kyle's doomed if he does, doomed if he doesn't, right?
Yep.
And I actually think that it's that what Angela is doing is very disingenuous to any discussions about mental health, to say that if you are suffering mental health, you must be taken off air. You cannot make your living, you cannot have your livelihood because you're dealing with mental issues, because there are so many people that are able to turn up to work, do their job to 100% of their ability, but when they go home, they break down. It's difficult.
Yes.
And I would just ask Angela, without knowing what she's been through or what her experiences are, I would say you've got to be incredibly sensitive of that, and you probably should have put your hatred for Kyle to one side when you were putting this article together.
Absolutely. And look, there. Unfortunately, we are way over time. The Ticker newsroom is standing by, and I could talk to you for another 20 minutes about this. But at the end of the day, people do struggle with mental illness and sadness, as Kyle has expressed it. The fact is, he was responding to the fact that he was misrepresented by Channel 9 and saying, this is why I don't talk about it, because it's created all these headlines. You know, like, he's actually the victim here. Now, people do want to paint him as the bad guy, but he's the victim, and now you're calling for him to be sacked because he's exposed to weakness. I can't agree with this at all, Bruno.
If you could just indulge me for a couple of minutes, sorry. There was one main point that I wanted to make, and it's when it comes to mental illness, Kyle has actually been dealing in a roundabout way with mental illness, which is through me. I know that in the media industry, it had kind of been thrown around a little bit, and I'm happy to talk about it, which is last year I was in a psychiatric ward against my will for 8 weeks. Now, you couldn't have found a more supportive person than Kyle, who I spoke to every day and who dealt with me in his normal approach. No, he wasn't like my mum and dad, who were warm and fuzzy. He was asking me all types of questions about what I'd been up to. He was making jokes. He asked me inappropriate questions, as he and I often do to one another. And for me, that was incredibly helpful. And this is why yesterday, when I read Angela's article, I just thought, you know what, screw it. I really want to address this from my own experience.
Well, Bruno, I tell you what, maybe we should talk to you more tomorrow or during the week. We'll look at availability because we are really out of time. But you...
Sorry, that's my fault.
No, absolutely not your issue. The fact is you have been on an amazing journey yourself, so I forget Kyle for a moment. Your journey is one that we need to talk about, and your admission here is really powerful stuff. So you and I will have a conversation off air. But, mate, I really appreciate you joining us today, and I really appreciate you being so honest about your own struggles, because mental health is the biggest issue we are facing in this country, and it's the hidden epidemic that we're just not talking about. So, mate, thank you very much. We appreciate you coming on and talking about that. And that brings us to the end of the Ben, Rob and Robber Show. We really do have to go because Ticker are waiting and we're 6 minutes over. So we will see you tomorrow on the Ben, Rob and Robber Show.
It's the Ben, Rob and Robbo, Ben, Rob and Robbo, Ben, Rob and Robbo Show.